So before we get started, I know this isn't like my regular content. I just really like FNAF, and I want to tell you guys how I thought about the movie. The movie is really fresh in my mind right now. I watched it last night on the day of, and let's just say I have some thoughts. Before going into the movie, I wasn't honestly expecting much. Usually when I watch movies about this sort of topic, they're not very good. But I really hoped that it would be alright. Currently, this movie is being bombed by reviewers, and honestly, I kind of see where they're coming from. There's a lot of things in this movie that just don't make sense if you don't know what's happening. So if you don't know a lot of the lore shit, it will not make sense. But I think one of the best parts of this movie has to be the main character. Mike is really well written, and he was definitely my favorite part of this movie. It's really hard to avoid spoilers because there's a lot of things that this movie does really well that I want to talk about, but I can't talk about them without spoiling. But Mike is definitely one of the best parts of this movie, and I don't think it would have been as good if he wasn't written the way he was. I also think they did a really good job referencing things from all of the games, and there was a lot of parts where I just had this massive shit-eating grin on my face because they referenced things that I remembered. And you can probably already expect this, but MatPat's in it, and I think his cameo was really funny, and I thought it was actually good. They did a good job. They didn't make it cheesy. He does say, I have a theory, but they did it well.
Some people say that, but it's just a theory.
But I have to say, this movie is definitely more of a thriller than a horror movie. I actually did find like the first 30 minutes to an hour kind of scary. Some of the jump scares got me, and that's not usual. But there's a scene, I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, but like there's people, okay, I actually don't want to say this, but there's just a scene where they're killing all these guys. Obviously, it's Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was pretty scary. So if you watch it, that's a good part for horror. After the first 30 minutes to an hour, it's more of a story movie than horror. If anything, like after one of the scenes, which I'm gonna explain later, I was laughing the entire time. It turned into more of a comedy. I think it's supposed to be a thriller, but it was funny, not for the reasons they thought. I think one of the worst things you can do is go into this movie and hope to be scared, because to be honest, many parts of it I was holding back laughter because some of the parts are funny on purpose and some of them are funny because it's kind of shit. But yeah, as I said before, I definitely think the first half of this movie is the best part of the movie, and by the halfway mark I was thinking to myself, they made a really, really amazing movie, and they did a great job. However, I was a little disappointed with the ending. I mean, I just don't know how to describe it, but it feels a little bit rushed. They tried to throw in so many things from the games that honestly did not need to be included, and there was a lot of parts where they just added things that didn't need to be there. There was scenes that just shouldn't have been in the movie. I definitely think this is because of the age rating of this movie. Being PG-13 was the main factor holding this movie back from like me absolutely loving it. So before you get your hopes up, it's a kids movie. That's all I can say. Although being a kids movie, it was a little surprising because there was a lot of gore. I found not that much, but there was a lot of things that I didn't think kids would actually want to see, because it seemed like if I was a kid, I wouldn't want to watch that. So they tried to do a kind of a mix, which just doesn't work. The horror side of this movie, they couldn't appeal to both audiences at once because they didn't want to make it too scary, but at the same time, it wasn't like not scary at all. My main issue with this movie is what I feared the most would happen. There was one scene that was so incredibly cheesy. I almost left the theater. I just couldn't do it. They have a scene where the main characters have a slumber party with the motherfucking animatronics. Like, what the fuck? This part was was so bad. I could not look at the screen because I was sitting there in the theater dying of laughter. It was what everybody thought would happen. We are FNAF. They didn't actually say that, but it reminded me of that happening because it was so cheesy. It was so bad. And I think that was one of like the main problems with this movie. They made the animatronics way too human. I think the whole reason why some of these games are scary is because the animatronics are dead. They're soulless and they're just terrifying. But they made them so human in this movie, and I just did not like it at all. I think the ending had a really good idea behind it, and I could see myself enjoying it if it was done just a little bit differently. But the execution wasn't the greatest. I feel like there was a lot of things near the end that could have just been, I don't know, a little bit more thought through. They felt kind of rushed almost. They tried to squeak in, I'm going to say it for, I always come back. They tried to make him say that. It just didn't work. It didn't fit. And I think that was a big issue as well. And I think I'm being so hard on this movie because they had such a good plot set up for them. The stories of the games are so good. They could have just taken a story from the game and put it on the screen, and I would have loved it. But they tried to make something new, and it didn't work. And I know they want a sequel because the ending, again, it really tried to set up that sequel. Because, we all know that's coming. It just felt a little forced, Like they really want us to know there's something else coming. Other than that, I thought the cinematography in the movie was actually really good. And I thought a lot of the shots were done very well. But yeah, the filmmaking was definitely one of the highs of this movie. If I had to give it a rating, it's probably a solid 7.5 out of 10. I think the worst thing you can do is go into this movie and hope for it to be a horror movie, because it just isn't. This movie will not scare the shit out of you. This movie will make you laugh. I'd be lying if I said I hated it though. It really isn't that bad. I'm just being harsh on it because I really enjoyed the games and I thought they could have done better. I just really want to get the point across that I don't hate this movie. I thought it was good. When I walked into the theater, I was like, that's better than I thought, I just, I thought it could have been done better. The more that I think about it, the more I'm like, you know what? It's not too bad. I think if you enjoyed the games and you know enough about the games, you're gonna enjoy the movie. There's just a couple things that I thought they could have done better, but they didn't do it too bad. It wasn't awful. This is also another thing that's completely unrelated to the movie, but when I was watching it, there's a scene where a guy gets bitten by an animatronic, right? And the people in the theater that I was with, they were like, "Is that the point of 87? Ha 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 ha." And I'm like, come on, man. Come on. That was so fucking cringy. I could not. I mean, it was funny, yeah, but come on, man. Really? Anyway, that's all I have to say about it. And yeah, that's it. Bye.